Hello class, and welcome to notes for standard 7.G.6, surface area of pyramids. The portion of this standard we're covering today, solve real-world and mathematical problems involving area and surface area of 2- and 3-dimensional objects composed of triangles, quadrilaterals, polygons, cubes, and right prisms. You will notice we are covering the same portion of the standard as we covered yesterday. This one now includes those pyramids. Our vocabulary today, we do have 3 words. First, a pyramid is a polyhedron with a base, which is a polygon. So notice it has one base as opposed to a prism, which had 2. And this time the faces are triangular. Remember, a prism has rectangular faces, so that's our big difference. We have a regular pyramid. The definition is a pyramid whose base is a regular polygon. And remember, a regular polygon is a polygon with all sides congruent, for example, a square or an equilateral triangle. And the final word is a slant height. The slant height is the height of each triangle on a pyramid. So if you look at our visual right down here, you will see we've got the slant height right here. Notice it does not go straight up and down, but it is still perpendicular to the base because we see that we've got that right angle. Okay, so it's not, it still makes a right angle right here with the base, but it is not going to go straight up straight up towards the sky. Okay, and then we can take a look at our pyramid that we have. Notice I've drawn a net as well. We still have that slant height in red when it's flattened out, and notice that is the height of this triangle. So that's what you're going to use to find the height. Okay, let's take a look at teacher example 1. Make sure your pencils are down. Find the surface area of the pyramid. The first thing we need to do before we can do anything else is go ahead and start by drawing the net. The net, again, remember, is to flatten out the shape. So notice we have a square. Each side of that square is connected with a triangle. So when I flatten it out, I have 1 square and 4 triangles. Okay, also the information given to me was that this is 5 inches here. We know if the base is a square, then this must also be 5, as well as this, as well as this. And if this height here is 8, then the height of this triangle is also 8, and the height of this triangle, and the height of this triangle. So when I look at my shape, I notice that I have 1 square and 4 triangles. Now I can plug in my formulas. We know our formula for area of a square is sides squared. I could also use base times height or length times width. I would still be able to find that answer. And my formula for area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Now that I've written down my formula, which remember you need to write your formula every single time, no exceptions, then I can plug my numbers in. The sides of the square, now notice this part here, I'm talking about the square, so I want to look at my red square right here. And the sides are all 5 inches, so for S I can plug in a 5. The base and height of my triangle, the base is 5, and the height is 8. Okay, and remember we're not worrying about these outside pieces here, the perimeter of this triangle. We're looking for the height, which is perpendicular to the base. Okay, now I can go ahead, I've plugged my numbers in. I can go ahead and square 5, which I know is 25. I can take anything I want and cut it in half. So I would choose either the 4, which half of 4 we know would be 2, or I can cut 8 in half, which would be 4. The reason I would choose those as opposed to the 5 is this one would give me a decimal. Okay. Now, the next step is to go ahead and multiply 2 times 40, and I end up with 80, and then I can go ahead and do my addition. So notice I've got 25 plus 80. I end up with 105. Now finally, as we know this is a word problem, we have our words in our answer. The surface area is 105 square inches. Don't forget, you need your units and you need to square those units in order to have your answer correct. So watch out for that on all quizzes. Go ahead. Student practice 1, go ahead and write the problem down and solve it. Press pause, press play when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, let's take a look and see how you did. First things first, we need to draw a net. So hopefully you've done that. Your net should have a square in the center with 4 triangles coming off of either side. Then I can go ahead and set up my shapes that I have. Again, 1 square plus 4 triangles. I can plug in my formula. Remember, you will not receive any credit if you do not have your formula written every time. So I have the 1 square, which my formula is side squared, and I have my triangles 1/2 base times height. Now I can plug in my numbers, multiply, or I can square 9, which means multiply 9 times 9, and I can cut something in half here, which I'm going to choose to cut the 4 in half since that's the even number. Then I need to multiply and add, and of course I need my units in my answer of square centimeters. Okay, let's take a look at the last teacher example 2. Find the surface area of the pyramid. Notice on this one the base is no longer a square, now it's a triangle. So I need to start by drawing the net so I can look at it, and I can say I have my triangle. So now I only have 3 faces, because remember, the faces are connected to each side of the base. So since this only has 3 sides, I can only have 3 faces. Then I can go ahead and write down the shapes that I have. And I have 1 triangle. And then notice I also wrote 3 triangles. The reason I did not put them all together is because these are not all the same size. The red triangle is a different size than the blue triangles. I can go ahead and write down my formula. Notice I have 1/2 base times height, and then I have 3 times the 1/2 base times height. I can plug my numbers in. Now when I choose numbers to cut in half, here I'm going to choose to cut the 10 in half because it's a nice even number. Here I can either cut the 10 in half or the 14 in half. It won't matter. Okay, I chose to cut the 14 because that 10 was nice and easy to work with. So now I can go ahead and multiply and finally add. Remember, when you're adding, make sure you line up the decimals. I do not want to see anyone trying to add the 5 with this 0 here. Okay, and finally my answer does need my units, 253 5/10 square meters. Okay, go ahead and try this one out on your own. Student practice number 2, pencils up. What is the surface area of the regular pyramid? Go ahead and press pause. Press play when you're ready to see your answers. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look and see how you did. Hopefully you started by drawing the net. If you didn't, press pause and draw that net right now. You should have 1 triangle in the middle, 3 triangles coming off of the sides. And then, okay, so go ahead and make sure that you found that 1 triangle and the 3 triangles attached to it. You've written down your formula just like we did on the teacher example, and then plugged in your numbers. If you didn't plug in your numbers correctly, make sure you pause your video, plug them in correctly, and see if you can finish this step. Also make sure you highlight any mistakes you made so you don't make those mistakes again. Now on here again I can choose to cut the 6 in half, and either the 6 or the 10. In this case I chose to cut the 6 in half because it was nice and easy, but you can do whichever you'd like. Then I'm going to go ahead and multiply, and then add, and then your final answer that you should have gotten is 105 6/10 square feet. Go ahead and rewatch any part of the video that you need to. When you're finished, make sure you take care of the quiz.